Welcome back, tyrants and newcomers. I'd like to apologize to Ace Attorney. This episode, we're gonna figure out who thought the cards used in the final game were blue, aka the fourth person. Who could it be? It's obviously not Olga or Phoenix. Maybe it couldn't be Shoddy Smith. So it's either Winston Payne or Kristoph Gavin. God knows Winston Payne wouldn't be the villain. It is Kristoph.
As I expected. Your eyes and ears are as sharp as your hair.
Oh snap, we were right. I was right?
Kristoph Gavin, you were the fourth person that night.
But of course Mr. Gavin knows the color of the cards.
How would he? As you can see, the photo of the crime scene is black and white. You can't tell which of the cards are blue, the ones on the floor or the table.
But look! You can see the colors in this photo!
Yes, but when he said the cards were blue, it was well before this evidence came to light.
It is true the defendant was engaged in a game of poker with the victim, yet it was only that. A game in the purest sense. A competition, Your Honor.
A competition?
Yes, a test of wits, a silent clash of passions. Only the cards, their backs wrenched in blue flame, know its final outcome.
Well, Kristoph?
Mr. Gavin? Mr. Gavin, is something the matter?
No, nothing. Excuse me, it was just so sudden. You aren't seriously accusing me, are you?
Oh, Kristoph. You know, even I never take a joke this far.
Objection! This has gone beyond ridiculous. Beyond dumb. This is insanity! The defendant accusing his own defense attorney of murder?
I assure you, I'm quite sane.
But what possible connection could Mr. Gavin have to the victim?
Well, sane in a manner of speaking. We've all got a little bit of insanity, especially you, Mr. Phoenix Wright.
I wasn't aware that I had a connection to Mr. Smith either.
Yes, but Mr. Gavin and the victim have never even met.
Well, what if they have?
Well, if they have, it's sure as heck time to establish a connection between the two of them.
Huh?
There is a possibility after all. They may have met that night before the game started.
What are you suggesting? Is this the truth Mr. Wright was staying silent about? Well, only one thing to do. Mr. Wright, the defense would like to request that you testify to the...
The defense would like to request no such thing.
Mr. Gavin?
Testimonies must relate to the case. How can anything happening before the game of poker be related?
I'm not sure if I follow, Mr. Gavin.
As I explained before, the defense believes that Miss Orly...
Am I to assume you speak for Mr. Justice in this? Here's the defense, not you. Mr. Justice, the matter of Mr. Wright's testimony is up to you. Oh, okay. Well, does the court, in your opinion, need to hear Mr. Wright's testimony? Yes, they do. This was Mr. Wright's strategy. He was planning this all along, and I intend to see it through. The defense would like to request that Mr. Wright testify to the court.
But, Justice, you would betray me? Your teacher?
I'm sorry, Mr. Gavin. This isn't about loyalty. This is about the truth. Very well. The defendant, Mr. Wright, will take the stand, please. Appetite before murder.
That evening, Kristoph and I had dinner. We sat at the table in the photograph. Shady Smith walked in 5 minutes after Kristoph left. When the trap failed, Smith hit the waitress. The girl was knocked out cold, and Smith was uncontrollable. I left to call the police. When I returned, he was dead, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. That's when I made another phone call to defense attorney Gavin.
Defense Attorney Gavin, huh? Mr. Gavin, you were at the Borscht Bowl Club the night of the murder?
I dine with him rather frequently.
And he talked to the defendant on the phone directly after the murder?
Quite against my will. I had become involved in a murder. I thought I might be in need of a lawyer, so I called him.
You were planning this all along, weren't you, Wright? Just because you wanted to drag me into your little murder trial.
The only thing I want is the truth. As I did back then, and now.
I thought my office was doing you a favor when we took on your defense. It appears that I was wrong.
Very well. The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Justice.
Sir.
He's lying and you're going to expose him.
Who said, Gavin? I think you look suspicious. Understood, sir. Mr. Gavin versus Mr. Wright. This can't end well. Why can't I have a normal trial? Because you're after justice, that's why. Habitat before murder. Evening, Kristoph and I had dinner. We sat at the table in this photograph. Shoddy walked in. Shoddy! 5 minutes after Kristoph left. Tell me about this. You had dinner with Mr. Gavin?
Yes, he dines with me at the Borscht Bowl Club quite frequently. We were enjoying our usual dinner at our usual spot, as usual.
Usual?
I always eat at the table closest to the piano.
I see. Where Mr. Smith was sitting.
So the plates and such on the table were from your dinner?
Indeed, the remnants of my meal with Kristoph. We dined for 2 hours, then Kristoph left. After that, Shady Smith walked in 5 minutes after Kristoph left.
Shady Smith walked in 5 minutes after Kristoph left. Okay. I'm gonna do a lot of pressing in this one. 5 minutes? So the two of them could have passed in the restaurant during that time?
That would have been a fateful encounter to be sure.
Objection! Oh, Mr. Wright, what was it you said? Kristoph, Gavin, and Shady Smith may have met?
I believe I did say that.
Here I was, all nervous about this meeting. Now we hear they all just passed in the hall.
That does seem a little weak as a pretense for murder.
Or it would be, if that was the way it really happened.
Come on, Mr. Wright. What are you hiding this time?
When the trap failed,
When the trap
Smith
failed,
hit the waitress.
Smith hit the waitress. Tell me about it. Press everything. About this failed trap. This is the same trap that Miss Olga O'Reilly mentioned.
The plan was simple. Elegant, really. You see, we set up a trap of sorts. I was to plant a card in Wright's pocket beforehand, and then deal 5 aces during one of their games. When their hands were revealed, Smith would call him out and search Wright. He would then pull out the planted card and a trap would snap shut.
You swapped the cards!
Just like that, the legend would be dashed to pieces.
Yes, a harmless prank, in essence. It was by a quirk of fate that I happened to discover it.
A quirk?
I happened to put a hand in my pocket and found a card.
The card she planted.
Yeah, I snuck a peek at it and found it was the 5 of hearts. I had a feeling something might happen, so I disposed of the card before the game.
Disposed? Where?
There was an empty bottle of grape juice I had been drinking right beside me. I threw the card inside the bottle.
An empty bottle of grape juice?
Murder weapon.
Yes, I rolled it up and shoved it in. The colored glass makes it hard to see.
A battle of wits between the deceiver and the would-be deceived. That sounds like terrific drama. The bear likes drama. Card inside the murder weapon, that's strange. Did the police miss it in their investigation? Maybe I'll have a look. Mr. Wright, the poker head of courtroom number 3 approves of this battle of wits, and so does the beard. Please revise your testimony with this new information.
I discovered the trap during the game, and disposed of the card in the bottle.
Okay, save state. So you disposed of the card in the bottle. Let's check it and see if it's in there. Examine. The bottle is completely empty. Can we examine the top part of it, maybe? What else can we examine about this bottle? Anything? Maybe on one side, maybe? Nope. All they're gonna tell me is that bottle is completely empty. So, all we can do is present here. I was right. Mr. Wright, if I may.
Yes?
I've examined the bottle, and I don't see any card in here.
No?
What, Mr. Wright? Surely blah blah blah. Surely dots isn't all you have to say for yourself.
I can't say that I know what happened to the card.
The bear doesn't like punctuation much either.
I did put it in that bottle, however.
Huh?
Perhaps a 5th person came and took it out, or when a 6th person could have helped.
Mr. Gavin, Mr. Wright is your client.
My apologies, Your Honor.
I won't have you disparaging our investigation either. We looked inside that bottle, and there was nothing.
So what's going on? Is Mr. Wright hoodwinking us again? Or did the card just disappear? In any case, please continue the cross-examination. The beard demands that all hail the beard. I'm afraid decisive contradictions call for decisive evidence. And decisive beardliness. Oh.
Push him harder, Justice. Break him. It's just you and the witness in the ring. Go for the KO.
Geez, Gavin suddenly seems more aggressive. I wonder if that's a sign. Why do I get the feeling we're not on our client's side anymore? That evening, Kristoph and I had dinner. We sat at the table in this photograph. Cody Smith walked in 5 minutes, discovered the trap. The girl was knocked out cold and Smith was uncontrollable. Press. God, spending all day on this. You made the call to the police from the first floor of the restaurant, correct?
Exactly. Cell phones don't get a signal down by the hideout.
Was anyone else on the first floor at that time?
Not a soul. It was the middle of the night after all. So there in the darkened restaurant, I called the cops. After making the call, I returned to the hideout. It didn't seem right to leave the injured waitress alone.
What a gentleman.
When I returned, he
was
was
dead,
dead,
blood streaming from a cut on his
forehead.
When you returned, the victim was already...
Dead, yeah. I'll admit, I was a little startled when I walked in.
Little?
He was bleeding from his forehead after all.
I guess I'd be startled too if I walked in on a scene like that. Really? Press everything. Could you explain why you called Mr. Gavin?
I'd obviously gotten involved in a rather sticky affair, and I figured Kristoph's law offices would give me a friend rate for defense fees.
No, a friend rate, that's adorable.
Glad to hear you intend to pay.
Ooh, geez, aggressive much.
Oh, I'll pay in full, Kristoph. It was I who got you involved after all.
You may find the price of your defense quite high, my good friend. Quite high.
Is this the truth that Mr. Wright was talking about?
Justice, you know what you have to do. He's lying. Expose him. Now.
Yes, sir. I have to think, what's Mr. Wright trying to tell me with his testimony? The truth has to be in there somewhere. Unbelievable, this game continues to own me with tiny little details. When I returned, he was dead, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead, but when he returned, in Crime Photo 1, he still had his freaking hat on! How are you supposed to know that? Ah! Mr. Wright, if I may...
Yes?
Take a look at this photograph of the crime scene. See the victim here? He is wearing a hat. I wouldn't think you could See blood on his forehead.
Good point.
Justice. Next time you point out an inconsistency, put a little more oomph into it.
Mr. Wright, can you explain this to the court?
Ah, I forgot to mention something. I was the one who put that hat on his head.
Why? Eh?
You
You put the hat on the dead man's head?
He wore it through our entire poker game. After calling the police, when I had returned to the scene, his head was in full view. Shining bright, just like in this photograph.
And?
I picked his hat up off the floor and put it on his head.
What? Why'd you do a thing like that?
All I can say is, I'm sorry. But that's the only thing I touched at the crime scene.
So, Missile really didn't see it? It being the victim's, his head?
I think not. She was out cold. I believe I was the only one who witnessed his head.
Ah, here we go again.
Mr. Gavin?
Pardon.
Jeez, how many times are we gonna ask if it's Mr. Gavin in this video? Of course it's Mr. Gavin. Lord, Capallo, you're so oblivious.
It just seems that our client is determined to lie his way through this case.
The beard thinks you're quite something trying to get rid of Mr. Wright that quickly. I think it's suspicious. Hey, he's still a client, isn't he?
I believe that's enough of that.
Mr. Gavin?
This witness's testimony is more like a travesty. It's riddled with lies. I'm beginning to see how you came to lose your attorney's badge 7 years ago.
Ouch.
Well, you certainly have a unique way of treating your clients, Kristoph. I never knew.
I believe it was you who threw the first stone.
Mr. Wright, if you intend to ever tell the truth about this case, it's now or never.
Don't be misled. I haven't told a single lie here.
Eh?
When I noticed the trap, I put the card in the bottle to dispose of it. And when I put the hat on the victim's head, let's just say I had a reason for doing that as well.
A reason?
The reason is right here.
Ah, good old flip phones. Your cell phone?
That night. Recall that I spoke with defense attorney Gavin after calling the police. Just in case, I recorded our conversation.
What's this?
Now that we're all here, I see no reason why I shouldn't play it back for the court. Kristoph, I seem to be in a bit of trouble.
What's this? Game not going well?
Something like that.
That gentleman who challenged you, he turned out to be good?
He turned out to be dead. Someone hit him. Hard.
You mean someone cracked that flawless bone china plate? It wasn't you, was it?
Me? Please. The cops should be here any minute. I'm in your hands, should it come to that.
Bone china plate?
A kind of porcelain, very smooth and shiny. And not plate, but pate. I believe he was referring to a certain gentleman's balding forehead.
The beard can relate to this statement. The court appreciates the defendant's discretion in not indicating my forehead. Wait a second, something's not right about that phone call. So after Mr. Gavin ate dinner with you, he left the Borscht Bowl Club.
Most certainly.
Then how did he know? When did he see this bone china plate? Oh, that's right.
Yes. That is when I began to see my good friend in a different light. Troubled, I returned to the crime scene. and when I spotted Mr. Smith's head again, I realized exactly what was wrong. Well, Mr. Gavin, the stage has been set. Perhaps you would like to explain this to the court. Exactly how did you come by your privileged knowledge of the victim's head?
So this is your reason? The reason why you put the victim's hats back on?
Your point, Mr. Gavin?
It's come down to this, has it? Phoenix Wright.
Order, I will have order, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe the court has been left with no other choice. Are you prepared to hear defense attorney Gavin's testimony?
Well, as the prosecutor,
Very well, then we'll break for 10 minutes. Afterwards, Mr. Gavin will take the stand for a cross-examination. Are we all clear on that?
Crystal clear, Your Honor.
Very well, this will be the final recess for the day, because the trial is almost breaking over. April 20th, 232, District Court, Defendant Lobby number 3. Mr. Gavin and Mr. Wright are both in the judge's chamber. Who would have thought today would turn out like this?
May I?
Huh? What?
Hello, sir. Please pick a card.
Random little girl is random. What's all this about? Is this one okay?
Excellent. I have a message for you. The last hand is about to be played. You'll need a trump card to make it.
A trump card? And how do you know all this?
The card you have chosen is magical.
Ew, a magical card, yay!
Use it wisely and the game is yours. That's all.
Hey, Ace! Where do I remember that card from?
Mr. Smith's hand had 3 aces and Mr. Wright's 2. It is 5 aces in all. It is true! I have seen it! The 5th ace! That was cheating! I swear to you!
The missing 5th ace! Wait, this blotch of red. Is this blood? Oh, snap.
You have your trump card. Now it's up to you to cut the deck and draw. The truth. My father's fate is in your hands. I know you can do it.
This blood-stained card is my trump card for finding the truth? Fell deep into thought as my mind raced to understand what this all meant. That girl. I'd seen her recently, but where? That's when I made the connection. Oh, she's the daughter! Oh, snap! Bloody 8 added to the court record. April 20th, 2:45, District Court, courtroom number 2. Court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Kristoph Gavin, will you please take the stand? Here he is. Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, the witness state his name and occupation.
Is this farce necessary, Your Honor?
Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom. You need to play the other games.
Fine. I'll play along.
You certainly will, and you have to play the other games. First, there's one thing we need to have made clear. How do you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith was bald.
Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it.
Objection!
Phoenix again. Whoa! Now you're over here.
I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin.
Mr. Wright!
What do you think you're doing, Wright?
Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo?
Dang right I do, Phoenix. Dang right.
Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off, except for that one time.
That one time being the instant he was hit. Ah! Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime. The hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to be at the scene of the crime, at the time of the crime.
In other words, you have to be the real killer, is what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Not bad, Apollo.
Mr. Gavin.
I'm afraid that I haven't been entirely honest with the court.
What?
Oh, I assure you I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation I see little interest to hide anything. Very well. Allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night.
Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the event of the fateful night?
The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I went down to the basement and peeked in through the little window to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead as he appears in the photo. A bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright, holding a bottle in his hand.
And an episode we have to end. Rate, comment, subscribe, favorite. And next episode we will see the rest of Kristoph Gavin's testimony.